I've been having a few problems with hoses. I get into all kinds of trouble because the hoses get kinks in them and then they leak, and then I hit them with the mower and they get cuts in them, and they end up being too short because I use them for somewhere, and I wind up having to either repair or join together some bits of hose so that I can reuse them in the garden. And all of the standard method of jointing is you use something like that, which you have to pay money for in the hardware store, and then you've got to buy 2 decent sized clamps that go on there, and then crank the clamps down, and then you've got this rather lumpy looking thing. It's all very ugly. I had a vague idea that I'd seen something before about people getting half smart and making beautiful little clamps out of wire, and cost almost nothing. So I started to look it up. I found a few videos, and now I'm going to make my own from all of that information that I've been able to gather. So stick around. Looking online, this seems to be about the most common type of tool that you can find, that you could sort of buy commercially in Amazon, wherever. Fairly expensive, like somewhere around about between $40 and $60, and it's a pretty basic bit of gear. That's all you get. There's no refinement, there's no ratcheting. It's just pretty ordinary. How it does work. It's quite nice. It'll probably last forever. And I bought this one, and I've since been able to make some wire clamps with it, which is all very nice. Now, the thing that, as I was talking about, that you'd need to have one of these things here to make you a normal type clamp, where you would clamp your tools, your hoses onto there, and then crank down with a couple of big ugly clamps on there, and that's how you would join just a normal piece of dumb old garden hose. But I found that you don't need that, and this is the joint that I've wound up with from using that clamp tool and a little piece of PVC. Now this is actually electrical conduit that you can get a scrap of. You only need a scrap, probably, you know, this much would do as many joints as you'd ever need. And then one of the beauties of this is this would be about the actual internal diameter of your garden hose. So as opposed to this guy, which is usually a bit smaller, and other ones that I've seen that are made for a 1/2 inch hose are actually even smaller again. So you're putting a restriction in the flow of your water. But if you use one of these and you swell out the hose a little bit before you put the clamps on, it actually offers virtually no resistance to the water whatsoever. So that's how that works. Just heat up the ends of the hoses, put them on there, use your clamp tool and put on the wire clamps. Make them really nice so that they have no sharp edges sticking up, and that's what I would call the definitive, sweetest, about the most elegant kind of hose join you could hope to have in your garden. And it won't leak, it won't come apart, and it'll last forever. So now I'm going to get on and make another clamp tool to my own design, because that tool is all very well, and here's what I'm going to make it out of. This guy, which is a 14mm ratchet ring spanner, and a 14 hex spanner. See, you're starting to get the idea already. And there'll be a couple of variations on it, but I'll get back on that. Okay, so we've finished customizing all of our bits and pieces, and our long hex wrench is now turned into 2 pieces, and they've got a slot there, and then this one here just a straight bar with a slot, and our ratchet ring spanner has now been shortened down, and it's got the little slot in there to take the wire when it's being operated on. So this one can just go into there as the wires come up here. I'll have to demonstrate all this for you later. and then if it goes this way, now you can turn this either with this guy to wind up the clamp, or we could use another one of these, so you get a very elegant ratcheting solution to winding up the thing. Or you could quite simply just put this guy in and use that to wind it up. So there's a number of choices on how we're going to make it work. Okay, let's get on and make a clamp. Okay, so I've gone out and got a bit of garden hose, and this was my most elegant solution in the past, where I did actually even use a piece of PVC pipe in there as the joining pipe instead of one of these things, because I get very tired of these. They're bloody awful. But this was about as elegant as I could make it, because this was the smallest clamps that I could get. But even so, you can see how they're dangerous, I don't have to tell you. So we'll cut this guy out and we'll put in one of our new clamps, and let's see the difference. Okay, so we've removed this one, and we'll just get that out of the way. And here's our bits, and this is going to be our joiner piece. Now, it can be kind of tricky to get in there, and several different ways. I can either heat this up with a hot air gun, or I could even try just putting a bit of WD-40 on it, and we'll see whether that's enough to get me a little bit of reduction in the friction and a little bit of stretchy going on. So let me get it in there with, yeah, I can get it in there doing that, but bloody hard work. Let's heat it up a little bit first. So here we go, we'll give this a little bit of heat. It's a pretty grubby old hose, but I guess not many people are actually jointing together brand new hoses, unless you made a mistake and bought two short hoses and you found you need one long one. So it's getting to be fairly hot. Now, I won't use WD-40 on this, I'll just put a bit of water on it to see if that makes it. And up she goes, no trouble at all. Well, some trouble, but not much. Okay, about half the way in, Deborah. There's that. And again on the other side. Now, get this guy in there, and what we'd like to see is that it lets us get it so far in there that we don't even see any of the yellow stuff, which would be kind of cool, wouldn't it? Just like that. Oh. Okay, so there's our joint. All we've got to do now is secure it with a couple of our wire clamps. Get onto that next. Okay, now to make the wire clamp, I just use this. This is fairly thin gauge wire. I don't know what gauge it is, but it's thin. It's also quite cheap because there's not much material in it. And I just buy a roll of it for a few bucks. And I try and make it a little bit kind of straight. And now on my bench here, I've already got a predetermined length that will just about do our clamp for what we require. And there's one clamp already made. So fold them in half. Now, okay, so we'll just get over here by the vicing, and around we go. There's the first time. Up to there. Now, keep these two apart just a little, so that the second round of wire can go around inside of it, and up here, back down through our little loop whoop, and there's the job done. So That's got our wire in place on the clamp. Just make sure that our wires are about organised the way that we want them to be. And at this point we're about ready to put the brand new clamp to work on this one. So I can put it on with this. Let's apply our clamp tool to the loop just there. Bring the wires up the sides. Apply this guy here. And then we just got to put this guy on. And around he goes. Starts to get a bit tight. Check that our bands of wire here are fairly somewhat neat. Irrelevant really, but... And then bring him up to snug. Like about there. That should come off. This, because it's got the ratchet, it won't back off. And then this just goes around. Straight around to there. And release the tool. Now the way I like to do this is you get these down in here fairly close, clip them off, get your needle nose pliers and actually bend these guys in so that when you hammer them home, the very ends of the wire go and dig down into the hose a little bit to make absolutely sure it's not going to come out and stick in your hand when you're feeding the hose around. And that's halfway done. Nice. Okay. Now we'll go around the other way and do the other one. Apply the tool to the business end and neaten up our wires a little bit, maybe doesn't have to. There you go. And there is our almost invisible joint in the hose, and nothing to grab on. So there it is. It's just another take on an old handyman thing that a lot of people do, and when you come to buy them in the shop like this guy, I mean, if you don't really feel like making a tool, these things do work and they're quite sweet and they won't rust. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. I'm out of here. I've got to go and plug my hose. See you next time. Bye-bye.